Drake, one of the most influential and commercially successful artists in the music industry, has long been known for his strategic moves both on and off the stage. His ability to stay relevant and dominate the charts has not only been a result of his musical talent, but also a testament to his business acumen. Recent speculations, however, suggest that Drake's influence extends far beyond just his music. Allegations have surfaced that Drake may secretly own a significant stake in Gamma, a rising music production house with numerous Universal Music Group, or UMG, artists under its wing. This potential ownership has sparked controversy, suggesting that Drake's financial interests may be deeply intertwined within the careers of many artists he once collaborated with, and even rivals he currently battles. According to industry insider and retired rapper Joe Budden, Drake's rumored $400 million deal with Gamma might not just be about his own music, but also about securing equity, publishing rights, and production credits across the board. This deal allegedly positions Drake as a stakeholder with conflicts of interest, essentially orchestrating and benefiting from the careers of several high-profile artists. The implications of such power could potentially explain the coordinated backlash against Drake from various corners of the rap industry: Kendrick Lamar, Rick Ross, Kanye, and more. Not to mention Drake's long-standing relationship with Larry Jackson, the CEO of Gamma, and a former Apple Music executive, dating back to his previous albums. This connection has only fueled the rumors of Drake's deeper involvement in the music industry far past what many would expect from an artist. But beyond the boardroom deals and business strategies, the real questions remain: does Drake really have a vested interest in the careers of his peers? And if so, how deep does the rabbit hole go? These questions cast a dark shadow over Drake's meteoric rise, hinting at a deeper, more calculated plan to not just be one of the most streamed artists, but to own it. Drake's journey from an innocent child actor on the Canadian television series Degrassi to the top stream rapper in the world is already rather suspicious. But we can't knock his obvious global success due to his unique blend of talent, strategic collabs, and a keen business sense. Drake's ability to seamlessly blend different genres and his knack for spotting and setting trends have played pivotal roles in his rise to stardom. From the beginning, Drake proved his awareness of the full breadth of the music industry through his decision to leave Young Money with Lil Wayne and Birdman to start his own record label, OVO. This allowed him to leverage his brand and capital to expand the empire we know today, instead of simply cashing out deals every few albums like most artists. As Drake's career progressed, his strategic approach to collaborations became more evident. He frequently worked with up-and-coming artists from various cultures, providing them with a platform while simultaneously tapping into their fan bases for his own benefit. This symbiotic relationship helped Drake stay relevant and connected to the ever-evolving music scene. However, this was only the tip of the iceberg. To fully grasp Drake's supposed plot to take over the music industry, we must first analyze what is actually known about his latest deal with Universal Music Group. Signed in 2021, his agreement is often compared to a never-seen-before LeBron-sized contract, rumored to include an upfront payment of $400 million in exchange for recordings, publishing, merchandise, and visual media projects, although the exact specifics of its value remain undisclosed. One of the key components of Drake's deal with UMG is the inclusion of his masters. This means that Drake retains ownership of his original recordings, which is a significant shift from traditional music contracts where labels typically own the recordings of their respective artists. This type of leverage maintained by Drake while receiving such a large advance showcases his influence in the music industry. DJ Academics and Russ, among others, even claimed that without this deal, the record label business model would collapse due to Drake's shifting artist motivations towards remaining independent, since essentially he doesn't even need them.
If Drake right now posts a link on a picture on the gram of his new album, Fully Independent, Drake will make fucking $10 million a week for fucking 60 weeks.
By the way,
you know what I'm saying? It's like insane.
Drake is, I said this before, and it's about to come out in the next 6 months. Drake is about to get the biggest bag in the history of the music business by far.
He should.
Because, well, A, he should, and B, they don't want that to happen. Because the day that happens, you might as well close the business down.
Drake should go independent and fuck the whole shit up.
If Drake goes independent, the music business is over.
I think this deal that Drake got with Universal is super unique, right? Drake confirmed exclusively to me like probably a year ago or so that his deal with Republic and UMG owns Republic, consisted, or his new arrangement consisted of his masters being owned partly by his own imprint, OVO Sound. So his own imprint, OVO Sound, from here on out will always own a part of the masters. UMG will own the other part. For him, I think it's a play of trying to set up his assets for later on to leverage his catalog.
But what many forget though is that there are already several high-profile artists that lean towards independence and or ownership of their own catalogs, such as Jay-Z, Taylor Swift, and Kanye, typically reserved for those who hold the leverage with high-value masters. However, Drake's deal specifically might be much more disrupting to the industry because most, if not nearly all, artists lack the same unique position that Drake possesses. His deal could very well upend every benefit they have gained thus far in the new age of streaming, regardless if on the surface it seems to give them more leverage when negotiating in record contract. Because while his contract poses as if it were semi-independent, he still receives all the same benefits of a standard record deal, such as strategic partnerships with major streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music for preferential algorithm treatment, and reportedly having a blank check for any venture he attempts within his music career. Drake even boasts his relationship with Lucian Grange, CEO of Universal, in multiple tracks to assert his business dealings with industry titans. As mentioned, something that most other artists cannot dispute, and therefore digs them deeper into financial debt with the record labels, since independence is not a viable option. Most artists, unlike Drake, rely heavily on live performances and tours for their income, rather than royalties from their music. This is largely due to how record contracts are structured. Labels try to keep artists in debt by advancing large sums of money for recording, marketing, and advances that the artist must repay through their earnings, in multiples I might add. Consequently, even successful artists often see little revenue from their album sales and stream. It's essentially a debt tactic to maintain control over the greater market share of artists. By continuously advancing money for recording, marketing, and promotional expenses, labels keep artists in a perpetual hamster wheel, needing to pay them back for their upfront loans, in addition to a profit share afterwards, of course. Oh, and we mustn't forget owning the artist masters too on the back end, that they can then sell later on down the road for upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars. The system in play incentivizes artists to rely upon them for financial support, to never realize their full income potential if they operated independently. Granted, many artists likely do not wish to take on the burden of handling their own business operations, so perhaps the system in place is for a reason, but the problem lies within the lack of freedom to even try, and Drake might have just closed off any opportunity. But this is just the beginning. Gamma, a music production house founded in 2023 by Larry Jackson and Ike Yusuf, has rapidly emerged as a top player in the music industry, with $1 billion in startup capital from investors such as Eldridge Industries, Apple, and A24. Gamma's mission is to revolutionize how artist entrepreneurs create, distribute, and monetize their content. This ambitious vision has positioned Gamma as an alternative to traditional record labels, focusing on long-term licensing and giving artists more control over their work. In essence, this business model is designed to attract top-tier talent by offering better financial terms, unlike traditional record labels that often take significant ownership stakes in artists' work. Gamma focuses on providing creative and business services while allowing artists to retain their ownership. Because of this unique value proposition, Gamma already oversees over 10,000 releases monthly, including some of the most influential artists such as Usher, Rick Ross, Snoop Dogg, French Montana, and more. These high-profile signings already reflect Gamma's power in the industry, but what's more interesting is its partnerships beyond just music, such as its collaborations with A24 for film production and the Shade Room for podcasting, some of the largest and most prominent players in the hip-hop media. Now, this all sounds well and good for the industry, giving the power back to the artist with respect to creative control and finances, as well as providing the tools to craft and promote their visions. After all, the music industry would be nothing without them. However, if one powerful artist were to infiltrate its walls with the ability to manipulate others' careers, the company's initial intentions could very well be corrupted. Speculation and theories about Drake's involvement with Gamma have been swirling in the music industry ever since Joe Budden sat down and had a conversation with Gamma's CEO, Larry Jackson, shortly following his beef with practically the entire rap industry. As previously mentioned, Larry Jackson and Drake have struck multiple deals together ever since his days at Apple Music. During the podcast, Joe Budden, who has had nearly a decade-long feud with Drake, but also respect for his success in music, attempted to gather some insight regarding Drake's position at Gamma, believing him to hold a significant stake and central role in the company's operation.
My wild theory was that Drake had to have some type of hand in Gamma, which is why he's promoting Ross albums and Sexy Red, and he must have some type of deal that's not even available to other people, to whereas he gets to be the owner and player, or player and whatever that other title is, like Herb Williams used to be for the Knicks, player coach. Like, he's just twofold right now, and it seems to be causing a lot of trouble.
According to Joe Budden's theories, Drake's rumored $400 million deal with Universal and Gamma is not just about his own music, but also encompasses equity, publishing rights, and production credits across the company's roster. This would allow Drake to benefit financially from the success of all the A-list artists we mentioned earlier, in addition to future dealings with Gamma and/or its distribution arm, Vidya, inherently creating a complex web of financial interests that extend beyond his own personal brand and music. Such a deal could position Drake in a conflict of interest by which even he is feeding off his own competitors. So no matter what backlash he faces from another artist, still earns him more power. Drake's involvement with Gamma is further evidenced by his visible support and promotion of artists associated with the company. For instance, Drake's public endorsements of artists like Sexy Red, Four Bats, Meek Mill, and Rick Ross have raised questions about his motivation. These artists, all linked to Gamma, have received significant boosts from Drake's social media promotions and collaborations, suggesting a deeper financial connection than just friendly support, especially given the power of his cosign. If Drake does indeed hold a significant stake in Gamma, it would explain the coordinated backlash from various industry peers. Artists such as Kendrick Lamar, Rick Ross, French Montana, and The Weeknd have all been involved in public feuds with Drake as of recent, leading to speculation that their quarrels with him are rooted in some sort of strategic executive decisions and financial maneuvers. Allegations have even surfaced that Drake might be using his power to manipulate the careers of these artists, withholding features, not clearing samples, and leveraging cease and desist orders to exert control, or unless there are financial incentives for him. More recently, Rick Ross accused Drake of doing exactly this by pulling his feature from French Montana's Splash Brothers for his latest album. Apparently, his verse contained shots aimed at another one of his competitors, Kanye West, but considered it later to be taking it too far with respect to their previous feud. Although Drake simply could have ordered this cease and desist in order to continue peace with Kanye, it very likely could have been handled in a less cold manner. But Metro Boomin and Kendrick Lamar have alleged a similar situation with Drake too, particularly regarding an attempt to halt the release and/or takedown of their collaboration Like That, which sparked the whole beef initially. Metro Boomin posted an email from Republic Records, the company of Drake's label imprint OVO, requesting that the song be removed from radio play on Twitter. The song was distributed by Metro Boomin's label though, Epic Records, which corroborates the suspicion that Drake holds some sort of jurisdiction, or at least believes himself to, over another label's record. But considering Epic Records falls under Sony Music Entertainment, whereas Drake is alleged to have a stake in Universal, perhaps he was just attempting to blackball the track by threatening to never work with any artists or producers on their roster if the song wasn't pulled. But the rabbit hole gets deeper. In response to Kendrick Lamar's bars aimed at Drake, he released the track Push-Ups, in which he uses the line, "Top told you, drop and give me 50 like some push-ups," that fans speculate was an eerie reference to not only Kendrick Lamar's viral video working out in a public park, but also potentially his significant financial interest and/or ownership of Kendrick Lamar and others' music, up to 50%. But Kendrick Lamar replied with his own track Euphoria, doubling down on the cease and desist accusations, claiming that Drake consistently attempts to manipulate public opinion behind the scenes.
Cease and desist on a Like That record? Oh, what, you ain't like that record?
Kendrick also addressed the rumors of Drake having financial interest in his career. Although didn't necessarily deny them, he merely alluded to the fact that Drake also has stakeholders within his own previous catalog, a common occurrence in the music industry.
Let's speak on percentage. Show me your splits, I'll make sure I double back with you. You assigned to a nigga that signed to a nigga that said he was signed to that nigga.
Despite both Kendrick and Metro Boomin's claims, Drake denied issuing a cease and desist order on Family Matters, and rebutted with similar claims of Kendrick Lamar contacting Tupac's estate to sue Drake for using an AI-generated version of his voice in one of his tracks during the heated exchange.
A cease and desist is for hoes. Can't listen to lies that come out of your mouth. You call it Tupac estate and beg them to sue me and get that shit down.
Regardless, just like the specifics of Drake's LeBron-sized record deal, nothing has been confirmed due to the sensitive nature of the information. But his influence and apparent executive power in the industry makes much more sense when understanding the immense value of Drake's catalog in the age of streaming, which Larry Jackson touched on earlier. Because this new technology essentially revolutionized the entire music industry with the capability of providing consistent and predictable revenue insights based on historical data that physical sales could not. More specifically, streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music have accumulated vast amounts of data since the early 2010s, allowing for precise predictions of a song's or artist's revenue potential. And because of this, the value of their master catalog too, that they can then sell or license for potentially a large sum of money, similar to the private equity industry. And Drake's catalog, particularly with its countless hits from the past decade, allow him to take full advantage. Furthermore, Larry Jackson claimed that Drake had the highest value discography in current time. In fact, that it is bigger than the entire decades of music released in the 60s, 70s, and 80s combined. This is because catalogs from 2000s and onwards fall into the sweet spot, aligning with the shift and rise to music consumption on streaming platforms. And around the same time that Drake struck his generational record deal, interest rates were at historical lows, creating an environment of nearly infinite borrowing of capital for high-priced investments, in turn offering Drake the perfect combination of market factors to sell his catalog at an absurd value, the $400 to $500 million we discussed earlier. However, Drake's catalog, in addition to future projects, could very well be worth even more than that, considering he has already accumulated over 100 billion streams on Spotify alone, which pays out less per stream than Apple Music, among other streaming platforms. Future revenue could be projected much higher depending on how long he licenses his music to investors. Therefore, with a potentially smaller advance than what his music is worth from Universal and Gamma, in all likelihood, Drake received the remaining value in equity of these firms and/or a financial stake in their artist rosters, exactly what Joe Budden's theory proposed. So in sum, Drake's strategic involvement with Gamma and his expansive deal with UMG illustrate how he plans to remain supreme in the music industry, regardless of any who oppose him. It positions him as both a major player as a top-tier artist dominating the new age of consuming music and digital media via streaming, but more importantly, almost as a puppeteer behind the scenes as an executive benefiting from all his competitors as well. These developments raise important questions about the future of the music industry. Drake's license deal with Gamma is currently challenging the processes of the traditional record label business model, shifting it towards more artist-friendly deals, but his specific circumstances might just be playing into the hands of record labels gaining more leverage. He personally just happens to be on the other side of the negotiation table now, so it doesn't affect him. Not to mention being able to pull strings in the boardroom now to potentially block other artists' careers to eliminate them from putting themselves in a similar position. As Drake continues to navigate these roles, the true extent of his influence and its consequences remain to be seen for the years to come.